He's coming. Hey. I can sort of see him. Here he comes. Here he comes. Hey there.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for giving me time.
Well, thank you for giving me time because I know I'm leaning on you on a day that has been something else. Something else.
Thank you for all the texts and the advice as we continue to make in the court of public opinion, and it will continue to give us more justice in the court of law.
I hope so. We have a little bit of delay. I don't know if I can see you, but you're a little blurry. I don't know if we need to.
I don't know what to do, Mo. I'm in this Minneapolis hotel.
I know it's junky Wi-Fi, but we're gonna keep going with it. It's interrupting a little bit. I don't know if it's because we need to go out and come back in. I want them to hear everything single word you have to say. So say a whole sentence and let me see if we can hear you.
Well, today was heart-wrenching, obviously very emotional for the families. Oftentimes when the children were testifying, as well as the firefighter, they got up and left the room because, just showing the video of it was very graphic. And there's some things that they could see that you all can see at home.
Yeah. Okay. We could hear everything you said. Good. I got it. Because I'm going to start a little bit further back and then I'm going to work quickly. And then I know that there's probably something that you can't say and some things that I'm going to just ask anyway. How about that?
Hey, say
So,
private. We up there, you're giving me advice and counsel. I can't say those things.
exactly. So thank you first. For those of you all who don't know who Attorney Crump is, he really is. What is it? Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee calls you Black America's Attorney General. And you are. So I just want to thank you for everything that you do. And I don't want to start anything without saying you've been a blessing in my life. You have given me opportunities. You've walked me into doors. You've shared knowledge. You have imparted wisdom. You have carried me along and exposed me to things that changed my life, not just the way that I do work or just enabling me to focus in and hone my own craft, but enabling me to assist and help in the community and in the highest and best expression and form that I possibly can. So I appreciate you for that, Attorney Crump. And it's worth the 60 seconds of whatever minutes you give us before you got to go get some sleep and start over tomorrow for me to say it means the world. And so many other people have been blessed because you blessed me. Because the first time I walked into CNN was with you. And I ain't going to forget that. Ever. And that was on the first day that we met. And you were like, come on, girl. And you've been saying it ever since. So people don't see all behind the scenes that you do in order to mentor and bring along people behind you. That it's not just you, that you've been a gift to so many. And my light fell, but you can keep on talking.
Now, Monique, we're just together, and you inspire so many of us, and I draw inspiration from you every time you call me with a passionate report to something that happened in the news cycle. But just your positivity. I think there are so many things that happen in our community that we should always be trying to inspire and uplift one another. You do that quite impressively. but you do keep it real now. When somebody or something gets you off, you won't bite your tongue and expect that as well.
Yeah, because you know what? And that was what today was. So I just want to say before we start about this trial, congratulations, Attorney Crump, on settlement for this family. I feel like the Floyd family is a part of me now, just for all this time that we've been walking together since George Floyd's death. And yeah, just having the opportunity to march with them, to break bread with them, to pray with them, to cry with them, and to see you get
Yeah.
justice in all of the ways that you, as a civil attorney, can. Congratulations, because this was the it was the biggest thing out there. I don't know what to say about it. I can't say you could have done it better, because when you do it better than it's ever been done, then that's all I can say about that. But how are they? How are they doing
You
in
know,
just the heels of the settlement coming in the midst of jury selection?
they're trying to do the best they can. A lot of this is foreign to them. And I want to digress to say thank you after the funeral when Philonis came to testify before the United States Congress. You were there helping me get him aired. And then we went and marched on Black Lives Matter Avenue with the future vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris. So it was a historic moment even then, and we continue to try to chart the course of history. The
Yeah.
fact that this settlement was historic in the amount that was paid out, but also in the policy reforms that they're doing in Minneapolis. They're trying to get it right. And so one of the things that you and I often talk about, obviously, the civil justice under the Seventh Amendment, the only thing that we can throw, we can't throw the 10th Amendment justice that the prosecutors, we can try to lean on the prosecutors, but ultimately the Constitution is very explicit. The only people who can charge and convict and arrest people are prosecutors. But
That's right.
the compensation part goes to the family, but then the policy, there are three prongs to trying to make get justice. One is the civil justice under the Seventh Amendment. Then we have the criminal justice under the 10th Amendment. But then we have policies that can be influenced by tragedy, like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. If we can, United Senate ask that President Biden, Vice President Harris are ready to sign that bill. We just got to.
Amen.
We haven't had substantial and systematic police reform, Monique, in over 3 decades.
No, no, I mean, and our president was involved the last time we had it.
Yeah.
So,
He got to
so
make up.
he, yeah, and that's one of those things. It's like, I'm thankful that he's in there. I'm thankful the vice president is in there. But no, the pedal will still be to the metal, because them being there means we have a unique opportunity to do something for not just our people, but for this country. And that's the other thing, Ben, you and I talk about all the time. When you do something, when you perform justice, that affects the good of all. It doesn't just help Black folks. It doesn't just help women. It doesn't just help LGBTQ. It makes for a better nation state, when our laws are applied equally, and when people are given the protections that they're supposed to have.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I do believe in many ways the Seventh Amendment and the 10th Amendment and the 14th Amendment start talking about policy. It impacts and has other. Just think about Breonna Taylor in the historic settlement and the policy reforms. I believe that in Floyd settlement, and then I know Andre Hill, the brother who was killed holding a cell phone in the garage. I think they're pretty soon see significant policy reform and that version. We have to continue, Monique, and I, and these civil rights lawyers put their lives and their reputation trying to go fight for Black people, even when it ain't both to do so. We have to continue to fight to raise the value of Black life, to make them respect Black life, and every avenue. I mean, we can't in any way say, civil justice is just as important as criminal justice, and we have to continue to say that Black people we shouldn't have to resort to being content with just partial justice.
That's
this
right.
Miss Diamond in Minneapolis, her family got $20 million,
Oh
and
yeah.
nobody's saying, oh, well, she shouldn't get criminal justice because they got that there. No, we are American citizens and we are entitled to full justice. We have to make sure our people come to expect full justice. It's not a
That's right.
Hobson's choice. You get one or the other. No, we are citizens and we want everything that the Constitution.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, Attorney Crump, because I was on I can't even remember with who the other night, and people were all saying that because the settlement was announced, that meant that, the fix was in, that they bought the family off with money, and because the family was bought off with money, that it wasn't going to be a guilty verdict. And some of that, I'm going to say it before you say it, because I know you might say it rougher than me. Yes, a civics lesson would help, because people just don't understand the difference between the job that you do, which you so eloquently explained, and the job that the prosecutors still have to do that isn't changed by this settlement. But listen, after seeing what I saw, and I gotta say, you've been holding out on me, Ben, because I had to do TV coverage yesterday and today, and I was so shocked and appalled and hurt, just hurt by what we were learning, which was so much more than what caused the uprising of last summer. And so, me, prior city attorney, I've been telling you for a year, I don't know why this ain't settled yet. I don't know what. Listen, I would have been writing that settlement request. Listen, there wouldn't have been a funeral yet before I was trying to settle this nasty, horrifying case. So them trying to get it right before all this bad evidence came out, I knew they were going to try to make that happen, because they're saying plainly for the world to see, the city of Minneapolis does not co-sign any of this. Whatever y'all do with those officers, jury, that ain't on us. We did the best we could. We cut him loose. We changed policies. We gave the biggest settlement that's ever existed, because they trying to say we are trying to do better because they don't want an uprising from this case. But the fact still remains that we're watching some hideous lawyering by the defense counsel. And as a defense lawyer, I can say this is a plum. Listen, and I don't
Well,
feel bad
they
for him. It's
work.
just terrible.
They don't have much to work with, but you're right.
They're doing a terrible job with lawyering. It doesn't have anything to do with whether they got evidence or not. They need a trial ad class. But but that being said, what is your take first on how the prosecution has done so far? Do you agree with the way that they're staging and building up with witnesses, and with their kind of overall theory of the way they're handling the case?
I think Keith Ellison, the first African American attorney general for the state of Minnesota, and his team are doing a very compelling job with making the case that Derek Chauvin should be held criminally liable for killing George Perry Floyd Jr. And before I get into it, Monique, I want to just say that is the difference when you have a person with a track record and civil rights, like Keith Ellis's brother was a United States congressman, very high up in the Congressional Black Caucus, and then he now is the Attorney General. Now, just oppose that with Cameron, the first black Attorney General in the state of Kentucky, who was over the Breonna Taylor case. You see the contrast when you have somebody who wants to hold people accountable for Black lives that matter versus the person who doesn't want to hold people accountable for Black lives that matter. And so you see elections have consequences.
They
the
do.
Prosecutor who in power, when they don't go and hold these killer cops accountable, that's the people we have to focus our attention on getting rid of, because those are the people who are not living up to equality, justice, all. So I just want to tip my hat to Brother Keith Ellison for zealously prosecuting these police officers like prosecutors do so often, Monique, in our community. I mean, you know, Black and brown people every day, they charging us with everything they can charge us with. I mean, they go down the whole laundry list.
And without delay, they don't have to do any year-long investigation to figure out whether they're going to charge us or not.
Not at all. Not at all. And you think about how they laid out the case, and we're going to get to that. But I will say this, and me and Keith have a relationship going back to, he was in the United States Congress. But I will say this, y'all, and I don't know if I can say this on CNN or, NBC or anything. Monique Presley, you've been a lawyer in courtrooms all across America, just like I have. And when you see them prosecuting Black people, they have that righteous indignation. I mean, they just be going at them. And can you imagine if it was George Floyd who kept his knee on the neck of Derek Chauvin for 9 minutes and 29 seconds? Man, they would be a monster. They would be saying this animal. They would be saying this thug and everything. But I ain't seen that righteous indignation yet. But they have been doing a good job building the foundation of the case. So I digress.
And it's that is to me one accurate.
Yeah,
that's accurate, right? But it's an interesting point in that I don't have a good feel, though I've been several times to Minnesota and to Minneapolis. Prince, God rest his soul. Prosecutors aim toward their juries, and they know what the feel and the rhythm and the cultural expectation is for their audiences. So I don't expect the Minnesota prosecutor to behave the way the prosecutor would in the Bronx, to behave the way the prosecutor in Houston would. You see lots of different things going on. So I am trying at this point to give full faith and credit. I'm trying because Ben, these trials scare me.
Black
I'm always thinking
this to a white man. What would the prosecutor be saying? I don't care what city you in.
Oh, it would be a monster. It would be heinous. It would be all the injustice of it. It would be all of that. But what I've got to say, though, is where even that Black prosecutor is not doing what goes with his skin tone right now, though again, they're doing an acceptable job with laying out the evidence, and they are not messing up, and that matters for the state. But they witnesses got enough indignation for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, our ally, our firefighter,
so let's go
breathing.
every one of
breathing
them.
fire. Yeah. So start
Let's,
with Donald. Start with
I
Donald, please.
but I think,
Come on through with my martial arts person.
all
Come
right.
on through. Come
First
on
of all,
through with my wrestler first.
opening arguments because we all were enlightened on something we didn't know about. We all said 8 minutes and 46 seconds, but then we found out that it was actually worse. It was
Yeah.
9 minutes and 29
9
seconds,
seconds.
and
Yeah.
it was so deep, Monique, because me and Reverend Al and the family, we got down on one knee as a symbolic gesture before court started at 8:46, and we tried where we did stay down there for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, but it was really, really challenging. It was painful, and I remember having the same need. It was so painful. So what that told me, it had to be intentional. I mean, you just can't hold that position without a conscious effort to stay there on somebody's neck in that position. So that tells me, and I just think, I don't know how the jury can't get it, that a person doing that there intended the actions that they were doing. And I thought that was important. And so when the prosecutor broke down every moment of that 9 minutes and 29 seconds, it was very impactful. The fact that I watched his family members as we were sitting there watching, how they all were crying, how they all were having to get up and leave. Because, I mean, second by second, moment by moment, you see George talked about trying to raise up his right shoulder so he can give his lungs time, space to expand, to receive and dispense oxygen. It was so graphic when they broke that down. So it's strong. And then when they came to the first witness, who was the 911 operator, who revealed what she revealed, it was a bombshell. I thought the story when that woman said, I didn't want to be a snitch, but I knew what I saw in that video wasn't right, and I had to do something. And I
Yeah.
thought that was profound, that you have somebody who works for the police calling the police, the first witness. And so I thought,
and she could see it on camera.
Yeah,
I'm moving to find my charger.
She even thought the camera froze, Monique,
because it was so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second witness, the attendant, I know, she was a little reluctant to be there.
She didn't want to be there at all.
But
no, it was horrifying for her. She didn't want to be there at all, and I didn't blame her.
Yeah, and it is emotional, and these people are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder too.
Yeah.
Then we came to our brother Donald Williams, and boy, he made the case.
He came on through.
Yeah, he was so illustrative in his analogies and painting the picture for us. When Donald Williams said that, he had went fishing and he had watched the fish.
We knew everything about the fish.
Yeah. And
he described cutting the fish.
Yeah. But it was profound when you think about it, Monique Presley. I mean, this brother said the humanity within him, after he witnessed that fish suffocate from lack of oxygen, how it fought to try to exist, to try to stay alive, that it has such an impact on him that he had to get out the house and get a little fresh air. And then just hours later, he would then witness a human being who would struggle to live as being deprived from oxygen. And how that brother said he had to lash out. He was trying to do something because the humanity let him stay silent. But you know who didn't have a problem being vain? That was Derek Chauvin, this monster who stayed there on his neck and just, as they said today, dug in. I mean, just dug in.
Yeah. What did Williams called it a shimmy? moving
Yeah,
back and forth. And
yeah,
then the witnesses today said they could see him shifting his weight and applying pressure.
yeah. And so it was so crazy. And the fact that they were the defendants, I mean, the defense counsel would try to offer every excuse in the book and not try to talk about all what Chauvin was doing. You know, they said he had a trace amount of drugs in his system. Oh, he has a prior health condition. You know, they saying everything. And then even shockingly, Monique Presley, they said that the bystanders, the people who were there up there pleading for George Floyd's life to take your knee off his neck, they said, oh, they are part of the reason why Derek Chauvin kept his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Ludicrous when you think the argument is making. How we gonna blame the people trying to say?
Oh, that's what I was tweeting all day today. It's the blame the angry black people defense.
That
It ain't
is
the
it.
first time.
That is exactly it.
Not the
It's,
first time.
you know, they are trying literally to do anything in their power to distract you, to make you look here, to make you look there. Anything other than to have you focus on the facts of that torture video, because they keep saying, the analysts all keep saying, oh, this is such a difficult case. This is a hard case. You know, this murder case is not hard. As long as people look at that torture video of George Floyd, it is clear the only thing that killed George Perry Floyd Jr. on May 25th was an overdose of excessive force by Derek Chauvin.
Right. I agree with you, but I think that that it's what it's going to come down to with the jury is that the prosecution is going to have to be real clear in saying it doesn't matter if it was the only thing, because then the defense will have wasted its time with George Floyd's health, with drug use, with all these other things, when it really just needs to be proven that a cause, you know, a superseding contributing cause of
That's
his
right.
death
Monique,
was
won't you explain
Chauvin.
to your followers what they taught us in law school about the thin edge skull plaintiff?
Right, right. And it works for civil, but thankfully in Minnesota, it for these two, for second and third degree murder, it applies there too. So what it basically means, let's think about it. If you are out and you are driving while drunk and have an accident and you hit someone, and if you had hit someone who was healthy and they fell down and bumped their head on the concrete curb, they would have lived. But if you hit someone and they fell and they bumped their head and they had a recent concussion and they still were bandaged and they died, you are responsible, even though their head was literally an eggshell. You are responsible for what followed because of your actions. And what we are seeing play out in court now on the criminal side is that Chauvin, now, you know, disgraced ex-officer Chauvin, is going to be held not just liable civilly, because the city already took care of that, but criminally liable for causing. And that doesn't mean being the only cause. It means being a cause. It means being a prevailing cause of the death of Mr. Floyd. So the fact that he may have been pumped up with adrenaline, if he had fentanyl in his system, none of that, and it was trace amounts, first of all, so they're making stuff up right now. But none of that means that for second and third degree, he cannot be found guilty, because he just has to, it's not even required. Am I right, Attorney Crump, that they prove intent? We can see intent, and I can see why really, you know, first degree maybe shouldn't have been kicked to the curb, because I think under the right circumstances, the jury would have been able to get there with him. But with second and third degree, they've got to show that he either in the first instance was the cause, the like superseding cause of it, or in the third degree one, that he's one of the causes, and that it's reckless. It's like the same thing as negligence on the civil side. And so on the facts, it's very hard to see where a jury can't get to second or third degree. But my concern, as someone who has successfully defended police officers who shot people in the back, my concern is that we are counting on a jury caring about Black life.
Right.
We're counting on a jury applying the law, and it got to be every single one of them. I mean, you can hear the whole reason the defense right now is talking about, and while you were there, he's asking the firefighter, people were saying curse words. I'm like, I'm gonna throw this TV. I'm gonna throw this whole TV. But they're doing that because it's gonna be one of them white women on the jury that they're aiming for. And I know you can't say this on CNN, and you don't even have to agree with me right now on this live, but they got these white women on there, and one of them is gonna clutch pearls with them at the angry Black man, at the angry teenagers, at the angry mob, and think that this officer was so distracted and unaware that the other three officers of what they were doing and worried about the crowd and blah, 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 that he lost sight of himself. So the prosecution is gonna have to be on the money. They have to leave no room for doubt, because one of those jurors will be looking for an excuse. And emotion may not ride the day. You know, we look at that video, we think it's hideous and horrible. Well, if you don't care nothing about Black men dying, it's not hideous and horrible to you. We hear those teen girls crying. Well, if you think teen girls are the same thing as Black women, you don't care nothing about their emotions. You know, we see the firefighter come in there and do a great job, but she said she was worried about the people of color and the Black men on the street, that they were in danger. Well, she might have alienated some jurors with that, who don't see things the same way she does. I agree with her, but everybody might not. So we cannot ever think that we got it wrapped up. Not when it's a cop on trial.
We absolutely cannot. And that's, as I was listening to you, that's why we love Motown. You're one of the most gifted, articulate sisters I know. Two quick things, because I saw a comment from one of the viewers that said, why was the judge arguing at the firefighter? So we should address that. But before we do that, I just simply wanted to say, you're right. We can never, ever, ever take for granted, y'all, that police being convicted for killing Black people unjustifiably is a given. You know, I keep saying over and over again, I've been a civil rights lawyer for the balance of my professional career, but I have been Black all my life. And we know without a shadow of a doubt that history has taught us the police kill Black people with impunity. I mean, it's just one of the things that has happened historically in America. And I read in the Washington Post article the fact that the police kill over 1,000 people every year. Disproportionate number of them are African American. And since 2015 to now, they've killed almost 6,000 people. And you know, only 121 police officers have been arrested and charged with murder or manslaughter, and less than a third of them have actually been convicted of murder, have been convicted, number one. And then number two, many of them were convicted of lesser included. Didn't even make a felony conviction when they killed people. So that is the reality when you're going after police in America. That's why this trial is a referendum on how far America has come in our quest for equality and justice. And so that we got to remember that. The other thing I was going to say, I was talking to a CBS producer, a white lady who did an interview with me and Philonis, I believe. And afterwards, you know, we were talking, and she said they did this story, and I talked about the trace amount of drugs, and it's ridiculous and everything. And they acknowledged that. she said when she got back to her social media page, you had all these white people in Minnesota saying, why didn't y'all talk about how much drugs he had in his system and that he's as an addict and all this stuff? And I kept thinking to myself, that's what they want to believe no matter how clear the evidence is. And think about how unfair that is. You know, the opioid epidemic, the opioid addiction epidemic affects white communities far more than it affects black communities. And so
Yep.
if this happened to one of their relatives who had an opioid addiction, you know, they would be screaming bloody murder. But because it's a black man, as we know all too often, we look at what happened at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Then we see what the sister happened to her in Atlanta, Georgia for knocking on the door. And we have to understand painfully that we have two justice systems in America, and we have to beat dig dog. We have to just beat it into submission. We have to pile on. We cannot take for granted. And that's what I tell Attorney General Keith Ellison. Pile on, man. Don't think just because you had a good day, that means all those white people are going to vote to convict this police officer for killing a black man.
No, and no, and there has to be a through line, you know, in these cases. That's what I was praying today. Well, first I was praying for those kids, and that they're being provided with mental health support, and they should get it for as long as they need it, provided by the government, because testifying is re-traumatization, and they did a service to the world by having the courage to do that today. Even off screen where we can't see their faces, people know their voices, you know, people can recognize, and so that to me was such bravery and necessary. But then I was also thinking, this is really powerful. I hope the state is saving something equally as powerful for the end, because before we get to the defense case, everybody needs to be like where they really cannot breathe. They're going to have something. They can't close
Yeah.
with a whimper.
Yeah, I think they got something in store for you. And Monique, I want us to try to address how the judge treated this firefighter, because I saw that question come up on your timeline a couple of times. But I do want to acknowledge Darnella, you know, that young sister, ma'am, who
Where
recorded
will we
that
be without
video.
her? Where
Yeah,
will
and the
we be
fact
without
that
her?
people attacked her, talking about she should have did more. You're like, hold on. What is a 17-year-old young black woman supposed to do when 4 police officers got guns and badges and mace and so forth? She's done everything she could do, yelling and screaming and videotaping. Same with Mr. Williams. Y'all know the police, if they would have ran up on them, they probably would have had 2 homicides at that point, because they would have pulled their guns out and shot them. So when that young girl said, you know, I apologize to George Floyd because I wish I could have did more and so forth to save your life, it was just heartbreaking, because think about the stress that she's under, the post-traumatic stress she's under, and Chauvin and those police officers, they were the ones who had a professional duty to act. They had a
Right.
sworn oath to act. And so why should it be black people? The burden is always put on us no matter what. When things go wrong, they try to say, oh, it's your fault. We got to quit doing that to each other, y'all. We got to be saying that this little girl, I mean, God bless her for what she did. She used the device that she had to record it and document it. That's the best this young lady could have done. And I gave her the biggest hug at the courthouse today, because I
Amen.
told her the reason why we're all here is because of you, Darnella. And
That's
don't you
right.
ever think for 1 minute that you had to do anything more. You were part of this history that we're making. And so I just want to point that out. All right, talk
Well,
about why
and
the
then,
judge.
and then the thing that proves it, and this is what I love to me that was brilliant about the prosecution. They really are sandwiching that testimony, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because you're getting on the one end, you've got Donald coming and talking about how he
Yeah.
had call the police on the police. And there was a thread of the same type of stories, which you rarely get. You rarely get that level of consistency. And that leads me to the firefighter. One, because if a white woman in the middle of a pandemic who is a frontline worker is saying to a police officer that she wants to render aid, and they are pushing her away, not letting her do something, please no. They were not letting a 17-year-old girl or a young Black man get anywhere near or do anything. It would have been a melee. It would have been ridiculous for them. And two,
They wouldn't have got treated like those white nationalists at the White House.
it wouldn't have been nothing close to that. And then I see the comments from people about our brave, heroic firefighter. So Ben, what were your thoughts on her testimony?
Oh, I thought it was powerful. That's all I can say, because here you had this woman saying, I was just trying to save his life. I wanted to give him a chance to live. I was doing what you all should have been doing. And, you know, the fact that she was a firefighter, they're on the equal level of police officers. And so it gave so much credibility to what Donald Williams had been saying. And, you know, they tried to say, oh, well, he was swearing. Well, how do you want me to ask? You remember the little girl Monique said, she said, you know, first they asked him nicely to get off his neck. I thought that was so endearing, because for out of the mouths of babes, you know, like, what else are we supposed to do? We ask you nicely, please get off George for the man's neck. You don't do it. We raise our voice a little more. You still don't do it. We raise our voice a little more. You don't do it. And then we start cursing and arguing, get off his neck. And then you say, oh, well, that's the reason I didn't do it, because these angry Black people were being aggressive. Well, the white woman, she's coming and she presents a different perspective, even for the white members of this jury. Say, okay, what are we going to say? Are we going to say it was just Black people who had a problem with this? No. You now have one white woman and one biracial woman who both work in concert with police, saying that there was something horrible about what we were witnessing. And so, you know, I think she was the perfect witness to end on day two, after they started with Donald Williams at the beginning of the day, and then to sandwich all those young children in between. It was a stroke of brilliance.
Yeah, and then to come back with that power. And then and I had to disagree publicly with a CNN colleague. I won't name the name because I don't believe in Black on Black crime, but saying that she, you know, disassembled in her testimony and became belligerent and was successfully impeached. And I'm like, okay, I thought y'all had been lawyers, but alrighty. So the people in here want to know about that. Is it right for a judge to be correcting and basically scolding the witness? What do you think of the judge scolding her, saying, you know, you can't argue back with the defense counsel?
Well, I think a judge most of the time is going to, if the witness isn't answering the questions that are asked, you know, normally there's an objection, and then the judge will say, answer the question that is asked. Unless the person is asking open-ended questions, there are some rules of evidence that say the person just can't be non-responsive to the questions that are directed, because in a good cross-examination, if you got a real seasoned, experienced trial lawyer, they asking yes or no questions, and that's all you're supposed to answer. And it's supposed to be a sin of cross-examination to let them answer anything else but yes or no. So when the defense lawyer is doing it, I know I do it in all my trials, you have to come at them and say, no, Your Honor, I didn't understand their answer. Was it yes or no? You know, because my question didn't ask for no explanation or anything like that. So the judge most of the times will say, you're non-responsive, you have to answer counsel's question, you can't argue with counsel and everything, because what happens and the way it's supposed to work is on direct examination. That's when you get everything out, let them explain and so forth. On cross-examination, all they're supposed to be able to do literally is say yes or no.
Right. And he was trying to refresh when he was supposed to be impeaching. And I saw somebody say that that was a skilled impeachment. And I was like, well, it would have been if he had ever actually impeached, if he didn't try to refresh the witness 3 times with something she had said she hadn't read. But here's my one technical question, because that concerned me. I know why she didn't want to review her statement, but how did the prosecutors let her decide she wasn't going to review her statement? Because the only time she was a little different or inaccurate was because her memory from a year ago was different, not off, but different than what she did contemporaneously. And she had every opportunity to review that before she testified. And she said she didn't want to. And I'm like, oh, y'all running things different, because it wouldn't have been up to my witness to decide if they're going to review their statement or not.
Well, Monique Presley, you ain't no average lawyer now. You're an above average lawyer. You know, you didn't coach the trial teams at Howard to make them win first place at all the mock trial competitions. But, you know, everybody has to, in a trial like this, you need to be on top of your game. You need to go do your best for your clients. It is a landmark case by every imagination of the word landmark. This will mark literally how far we've come in America, and it will be referenced in the history books, I think, for the next 100 years. So why this defense lawyer or anybody isn't ready for this type of case, I would never understand that. But hopefully that answered some of your followers' questions about why the
Yes.
judge had to do what he had to do.
Yes. What's going on? Why, first of all, why don't we get to see the jury? And 2, from people who are in the room, how are they reacting?
And I probably got about 5 minutes, Monique,
Okay,
and I
thank you.
apologize.
No. I appreciate you.
You know, we can't see the jurors now because they don't want the jurors to be put in danger or influenced in any way. A lot of times I think, you know, they go overboard. And I have to say this, Monique, because, and I do say this on CNN, I don't say it as passionately as I'm about to say it to you. I just think it's ridiculous how when a white person kills a black person, then everybody starts saying, oh, we don't know if they can get a fair trial. We don't know if they can get a fair trial. I have never in my life, ever in my life, seen a black person be charged with murder and anybody say, well, I don't know if they can get a fair trial. We got to move the venue. Oh, their life is in danger. They're getting death threats. But when a white person kills a black person, whether it's one of these killer cops or whether it's one of these stand your ground, highly controversial things, nobody is saying that, you know, we got to be so concerned about the victim. It's all about that white defendant. And that just goes to show you that our legal system engages in the intellectual justification of discrimination on every level. Race permeates everything in that courtroom. And we have to speak truth to power every chance we get. And that's why I go on all these cable news stations and everything. And I just tell my white counterparts in college, no, that's ridiculous. This ain't no hard case. But let's be honest with each other. You know why you're saying this is a hard case? Because the victim is black. If this was a white American citizen, nobody would say that this is a difficult case. Everybody would be screaming bloody murder, and they would expect justice to be swift and would get upset if it's, I mean, do you think a black man actually would have got a bond in this type of case with this kind of evidence?
No.
I mean,
it wouldn't happen. Not a black police officer.
Yeah. Well, you saw what happened to the black police officer in Minneapolis when he shot the white woman in a very controversial, highly questionable police shooting. If she would have been a black woman, not only do I think he wouldn't have got charged, her family wouldn't have got nowhere near $20 million if they even got $100,000 in a dark alley while she's acting belligerent and he comes and doesn't know if she has a gun or not. Man, it just tells you what white privilege is all about in America.
Yep, you're right. So what are they, that's my last question. What are they looking like from inside? Do you know?
Who the jurors? Well, I hadn't seen the jurors, but the family, I mean,
from the family members,
that they are very engaged, and that, you know, you have some of them get emotional, and so that is going to be the question, to make sure that there's not that one holdout who can't see the humanity in black life and can't respect George Floyd's life, his life experiences, his culture, his background, and will try to use those stereotypes against him. That is going to be the issue. And you know, George Floyd didn't kill anybody. Derek Chauvin killed people, and I just think it's ridiculous how they can't get into his 19 prior complaints of excessive use of force. And that's, again, the double standard, because you know they allowed to get a lot into George Floyd's history and his criminal allegations to suggest these things, but they don't let you do that to this white killer cop who did this, which begs the question that I keep saying: why do we give these police officers who do these horrible things so much respect? I still haven't heard anybody call him a monster.
No. Well, I'm doing it every chance I get. I'll be
I'm
doing
sorry.
it tomorrow too.
Correction, Your Honor. In the courtroom, nobody has called this guy a monster.
Right, and I, you know, and I don't expect it. I don't, but I know tomorrow we're going to have some law enforcement. We're going to see some other things. Tell the people, and we got a nice little crowd in here. I'm glad to see that. You guys, please be very appreciative of Attorney Crump's time. He does not deny me, and I'm so thankful for that. But I want us to support you, Attorney Crump, and the family. What can we be doing? Tweeting, posting. How can we help even while the trial is going on, just to keep the message out for justice for George?
I absolutely think the court of public opinion is important. I was talking to Tesla Figueroa and Natalie Jackson, two great freedom fighters, and what they talked about is how we have advanced the consciousness level in America since Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. When you hear those answers that those witnesses are giving, they're speaking truth to power about this inequity that is placed on Black life. A lot of that is efforts of years and years of work of us going and using our resources and platforms saying Black Lives Matter and calling out the double standard and holding a mirror to America's face. So anytime you can do that on social media for us to say positive stuff about how George Floyd life matters and that this police officer should be held accountable, that is critical. You know, my philosophy, and they even said, we got it, Attorney Crump, the Crump method. You got to fight first in the court of public opinion, and then if you're successful there, then you just might be able to get the Black person to enter into the court of law. It's no guarantee, but that's the playbook you have to go for with marginalized people of color. If you can't win in the court of public opinion, you can't ever expect to get any satisfaction from the court of law.
Well, Ben, we support you. You know, I got your back, and I thank you for what you do. And we are going to be putting it out there. I'm posting, I'm taking every interview I possibly can. I want to share messaging, but you also have our prayers, you know, because the Spirit of the Lord is on you and the work that you do. And I don't care what nobody say. You know, I called you last week. I was like, should I fight? But I didn't.
Thank you.
So instead, what I'm going to say is you have my prayers, and the prayers of the righteous availeth much. So
Yeah.
I really am just believing for justice for this family, because the Floyd family, you guys don't know the work they're doing with their foundation, all of the other families that they have helped just since they lost their own brother, father, nephew. So I just believe that God is going to honor that, and that we are going to see the right result, and it's going to be the first of many. So you're welcome back here anytime, and if there's anything I can ever do, and that means next week we'll come and talk about Joshua Feast, but not
We'll
today.
come and talk about Joshua
We're going to
Feast.
talk about Joshua
April
Feast.
9th, meet us down in Houston, Texas.
Yes, April 9th, Houston, Texas, because Attorney Crump, y'all know, is fighting many battles. We need justice for the Turner family, for Pamela Turner, and we need justice for Joshua Feast family. And God bless you, Pastor Gray. I see you in here. Pastor John Gray is in here. Attorney Crump, we
My
appreciate your
man.
prayers. Thank God for you. Thank God for stopping in with us. And the saints are praying, but I love you, Ben. Thank you so much for coming in.
Love you, Monique. Thank you for more time.
Yes, we all want some more time.
We all want some more time. Okay.
Have
I'll
a good
look for
night.
your texts. They really are helpful for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Amen.
Amen.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys for sticking with me for the interview. I will be bringing more. I was on Black News Channel yesterday discussing the case. I will be on, I think, I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered tomorrow, and maybe on Black News Channel as well, and a couple of other places. So just watch my feed for where I'm offering analysis, and I will try to be coming back here and offering more in-depth analysis and pulling lawyers who were involved to talk to you about the case. So thank you for your time, for your prayers, for your patience, for sharing positivity out there, and share understanding even. And if you have any questions about the case, DM me or go into one of my posts and write a message under there, and I'll be sure to try to get you an answer to the best of my ability. Praying for all of you in this season. Stay safe, keep your mask on, get vaccinated as soon as you can, and prayers up. Bye-bye.